Muting Spotify. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
It's Commander's Horn, episode 83. The next 2 weekends are very important for competitive Gwent. Red Dragon Championship approaches this weekend, and next weekend, it's time for Wild Hunt Philadelphia #2. What lies in store for us at these events? Let's find out with my roundtable of North American guests, Flake, Ammers, and ShadowplayRed, on this episode of Commander's Horn. Good afternoon, friends. It is June 5th, 2018, a great time for your weekly Gwent podcast. I am your host, Dane McBeard, and today I've got a panel of guests. They're all excited to talk to you about Wild Hunt Philadelphia because, well, they're all going to be there. First of all, let's talk to Flake, frequent guest on the show, also your host for Wild Hunt, one of the event organizers as well. Flake, how has this week been treating you?
It's been a busy week, that's just to say the very least. We're sort of approaching the final 11th hour before Wild Hunt actually goes down. And there's a few loose ends here to tie up and a few that sort of come loose every now and then. But all things considered, it's looking very, very favorable. We're having more and more of a feeling that this is way more than just a tournament. This is absolutely more of a community event. And the tournament is just a little extra gravy on those potatoes. But it's really, really, really looking up. And I'm exceptionally excited because last Wild Hunt was phenomenal. And all this hard work that's gone in by a plethora of people like Shadowplay, like Ammers, is going to come to fruition. And I'm very excited about that.
Excellent, excellent. Flake, good to hear from you, and it's really exciting to be a part of Wild Hunt coming up. I know it is a community event. It's got a very special vibe. Big fan of Wild Hunt. Also joining me is the creator and lead over at the Lodge of Sorceresses, a very active Discord with mentorship and community events. Lots of new and veteran players alike have a good time over at the Lodge of Sorceresses. Ammers, how are things going over at the Lodge?
Hi, things are going very, very well. We last spoke in February when it was still new, I believe, or maybe it was March. And since then, just doing strictly private invites. We're almost at 600 members. Very active, very friendly community. We've had very few incidents of needing to dole out any sort of, kicks or bans or anything. And it's just going really, really well. We've gotten involved with the NA Gwent scene. We're sponsoring the Wild Hunt 2 tournament and providing some prize support for that as well. So everything's going really, really well.
Right on. That does sound very well. Just in a few short months, it's one of the biggest communities in Gwent as well, outside, of course, the Reddit and the Gwent Discord. But it is a very active community, and lots of cool events. Finally, my guest, someone who's very deep in the Gwent esports scene, not only covering Gwent Masters, but also a founding member of Team Leviathan. ShadowplayRed, good to see you. How's the team doing?
It's doing really good. It's been a pretty crazy few weeks, just like with my other two friends here, Flake and Ammers. We're all busy behind the scenes trying to put together something really cool for Wild Hunt 2. But at the same time, I kind of fast forwarded a good bit with my co-founders Beardy Bog and Serious Adam in putting together Team Leviathan Gaming. And we've really got a bunch of really great guys that have really, in my opinion, elite players on both the pro and ranked ladder. Some really great streamers as well that have decided to join us in this new endeavor. So in saying that, yeah, I think everything's going pretty well. Really looking forward to what's coming up in the next month or so.
All right, that's great. So I'm assuming that you're all very excited to talk to me about the coming weeks-ish. It's going to be a pretty active June, I think, for the tournament season, I would say. And we should get to talk about that. But first, I would like to say that this episode of Commander's Horn is recorded live on my channel, twitch.tv/McBearded. You can find all episodes of Commander's Horn at commandershorn.com. And you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, other podcasting apps. Send your emails to commandershornpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us at Commander's Horn. This week's show is brought to you by our sponsor, the Slave Driver Weight Loss Program. In just one day of fighting for the Emperor, we'll have you down to a size 1. Just kidding, of course. We got to do the shout outs to the Commandos, of course, who really do sponsor every episode of Commander's Horn.
Commandos!
Our patrons at patreon.com/Commander's Horn. Thanks always for keeping the mics on and the podcast ad-free. Let's get this show started, my friends. Some upcoming events to talk about with my guests, ShadowplayRed, Ammers, and Flake. We're just going to take the quickest break. We're going to talk some tourney news right after this. All right, my friends. Actually, the first thing I want to talk about is a little piece of news that happened today. We actually got Full Spectrum Arena added into the game. I just want to touch on this first, and then we'll get into the tournament stuff. But Full Spectrum Arena, where your choices are not limited to bronze, silver, or gold choices, you can have any choice from any color of card. You just would pick the best choice in this situation. First of all, who's tried it? Did anybody get a chance to try it today?
Not yet. Nope.
No? Ammers?
I haven't. I came home from work and then cleaned up and came here to do this. So,
Flake, same situation?
Unfortunately, yes. I came home, did not clean up, and still have not had enough time. So I have not yet delved into the new and exciting method of playing Arena.
I mean, the truth about it. I mean, I'm not a huge Arena player myself, but I think that the spirit of commenting on this news, even though none of us had a chance to try it. I mean, we have the rough idea. I mean, you can see silvers, golds, or bronzes. Sometimes they might be bad golds, great bronzes. You might get great silvers and great golds, and you might actually have a tough choice. I don't know. Like, there are a lot of obviously different permutations of decks, but ultimately you're still building a deck. The thing about it is that I like is that this is an ongoing event and an ongoing thing that's coming through this supposed dark time that we're waiting for Homecoming. First of all, I'm not really bored of this current meta yet because we just got changes and I'm still brewing some stuff up. But I do like that there are still events that are still happening, faction battles and this arena stuff. I mean, it's important, right? It's important for us to constantly have events to, keep things interesting while we're waiting. And the waiting period is already like halfway, almost halfway.
is it really?
I think so. We're expecting, well, I guess it's not really almost halfway because October is when we're expecting it, but I know we're expecting news soon. And once the news starts flowing, it's just I think time's going to get away from us.
They did say that we're going to get a playable beta for it as well, so it may not seem like that long.
A beta for a beta. How does that make you feel? How do you like the beta?
Like betas.
Yeah, we're sort of approaching the meme sun here, where we're really just now it's just memes of memes and the beta of the beta. And halfway through is speculative if you're sort of under the impression that October or whatever is sort of the launch period for this. Again, I'd much rather have a finished and polished product than a rushed product. I'd rather have something that, like, if they came out and said, you know what, we're really close, we don't want to dump anything on you, and we're going to have it all polished and figured out by, it's going to be an extra 2 weeks. I'd rather that than just, I don't want another midwinter patch syndrome where it seems like they had to, go up against a self-imposed deadline and then rush things out, and then it kind of marked a little bit of a dark time in the game, unfortunately. So, I mean, they say you've waited this long, what's an extra 2, 3, 4 weeks or so? Yeah, it could be excruciating, but again, what's more excruciating, having to wait an extra 4 months for a polished, tested product, or getting something and then maybe sitting through another month and a half of either, bugs, this, that. So I'm optimistic. I'm definitely optimistic. I'm really, really looking forward to October, to seeing what they're going to be releasing, the information that they're sort of going to leak out. And in the meantime, like you said, like these events that are coming out, the arena variations, the faction battles and such, it's kind of a little bit of the bread on the table while you're waiting for your entree. They're saying it's coming, here's some more free bread, it's good, it'll whet your appetite while you're there, but we all know that at the end of the day we all showed up here for
the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the never-ending pasta.
Give me those breadsticks.
Breadsticks.
I mean, I'm optimistic as well, but I won't lie, when, as I'm playing the game right now, obviously we need, they're addressing stuff like coin flip, they're addressing stuff like spy, card advantage spies even being in the game or not. But I feel like I'm optimistic too, but I also have this huge feeling of dread that we're losing a good game. Like we know the game is going to be Gwent and Spirit, and we know that there's going to be big mechanic changes and the game's going to be very, very much rewritten. I enjoy Gwent right now, even its shortcomings. I've always said it's like the devil I know. It's like the shortcomings that I come to expect. We've learned how to play in this atmosphere. But if this were to go away and I shall be left wanting for something that we have now later, I feel like it's going to be a very similar situation to the people that miss X feature that's been removed from Gwent already. So I certainly hope it is going to be great, and I hope Gwent has never been better than in Homecoming. But I'm just worried I'm going to miss a lot. There's going to be things that I miss. I don't know. ShadowplayRed, how do you feel about this kind of... I'm asking this. This is a common question that I ask people who come on the show. Homecoming, what do you think?
Well, it's the long pause that I think worries most everybody, is that the people that were kind of on the fence with the game coming out of Midwinter Patch, it seems even like numbers on Twitch are slightly down, amongst all streamers and as far as viewers are concerned. So I think there's what we need is what seems to be rising right now, which is enough content to get everybody through this long waiting period. Now, I do know that in the competitive scene that Aretuza is starting to work on some team versus team tournament stuff, which will give us some more content behind the scenes with Team Leviathan Gaming. We have something that we have planned that we're going to try to roll out in July. So we're really, the competitive scene in itself, we're really trying to do, all of us, I think, team-wide that are out there, really trying to keep the scene alive. And I think the streamers that have stuck through all this as well as are doing the same. So I'm like Flake is. I'm really, really hopeful for what we're going to have come October. But, it's like the anxious waiting, that you're just like, oh, come on. But then again, I would definitely like them to come with a polished finished product, then rush it to us, even if it takes a couple extra weeks. I know not everybody wants to hear that, but I just don't think I can handle them rolling out like a bug-heavy game.
Well, so, I mean, I'm hoping that won't happen, of course. But you did mention actually something really cool. Team Aretuza actually did do they did kind of a team versus team event last weekend, the weekend that just passed. And it wasn't really, I mean, it was cool because it showcased the decks that could be getting strong in the upcoming tournament meta, and we should probably maybe talk about that right about now. But it was also probably not what you would expect, because there were like some fun limitations on the decks that could be brought. Like if one player brought Northern Realms, Skellige, and Monsters, no other player on that team could bring that combo. So it wasn't exactly kind of the same sort of ban targeted, this deck is going to be good because of this meta type situation. It probably was more like decks that would function well on ladder outside of tournament. But that was a cool thing that Aretuza did, and hopefully they do more team v team stuff as well, and hopefully we get to see more teams get involved perhaps. But we do have some competitive stuff coming up this weekend and next weekend. The first one that's coming up, the Red Dragon tournament happening in the Czech Republic this weekend. It's the first non-CD Projekt Red hosted licensed event since Gwent Slam, put together by the people at Gwent Arena, with a $12,500 prize pool and crown points as well. Now, this is going to be the first major tournament since the swap patch, so I'm expecting some dramatic shifts in lineups and bans. We saw mostly nerfs to the strongest decks in the game, like Brewer, Henselt, Alchemy, but I think that Henselt probably took it the hardest. Generally, though, as far as a tournament meta, especially when we're talking about Henselt maybe not seeing an appearance, Flake, are you excited about the new tournament meta that we're going to see this June?
So the joy that I find from this is just because of the patch that happened and the effect that it's had on various decks. And you mentioned Henselt, and Henselt being a tournament staple. Now, what I want to sort of add on to that is Henselt's been a tournament staple because most of the tournaments have been, that we've seen, like advertised broadcasts and such, have been CDPR run tournaments like the Opens, the Challengers, where the coin itself is a given, right? So you know that Henselt on red coin is going to be, I don't want to call it auto win, but it definitely has a drastic, favorability in terms of win rates and such. So like, you know, when you're saying that, will we see a lot of Henselt at this tournament? I don't think that we would have seen a lot of Henselt in this tournament had it been nerfed or not to that degree, because of the fact that the unreliability of the actual coin toss. Now, it's obviously a strong deck, and I know that the fact that it got nerfed is going to see a lot of, you know, or a decrease in its playability on a competitive level. But I mean, you know, to say that it's not going to see as much play because of that, I think a lot of that has to do with the coin variability as well. But that's a whole other issue. I mean, I'm always happy to see this, because I mean, the decks that have taken a big hit, like Alchemy hasn't necessarily taken a huge hit. It's still viable, but I mean, I think the for a long time, the big dog on the block has always been, or not always been, but recently has been Imlerith, right? Like Sabbath has been a big pain in the ass, and seeing decks like Elves kind of lose a little bit of their luster from, you know, their swappability and such. That's another big effect. So Deathwish still, you know, kind of has a chance at seeing regular play. Consume has sort of seen a bit of a resurgence. Great Swords, always a reliable option as well. So perhaps some of the mainstays from the past months will always be there, but you know, there'll be less Northern Realms, at least from a Henselt perspective. That's for sure.
Probably, for sure. Ammers, the Lodge frequently has viewing parties for big events. Are there first of all, what are those viewing parties like? You guys just get on voice and watch the events? I wouldn't know. I'm usually at the event, so I never get a chance to actually take them in. But for this one, I'm not going to be, so I don't know if you have a viewing event planned for the Red Dragon, if you have something planned for Wild Hunt, even though you'll be on location. And generally, what are the viewing parties like at the Lodge of Sorceresses for these competitive events?
So for our events, we usually just hang out in voice chat and watch it together, and it's just kind of companionable, hanging out and watching it. For everything except for the most recent Challenger, we didn't do anything very structured, but the one that we did for Challenger absolutely knocked it out of the park. We worked together with ShadowplayRed's Facebook group, the Gwent Masters Worldwide Facebook. We had a whole bunch of trivia contests. We had a crappy cosplay contest, and that was hilarious.
Oh, the crappy cosplay is so good.
It was fantastic.
Expand on this for people who don't know what crappy cosplay is.
Crappy cosplay is, the rules were become a character from a Gwent card using stuff you have around your house. And if you're putting effort into getting anything, then it's too much. It's too much effort. It's got to be crappy. The crappier, the better. And so our two winners were Thrilling, who's in chat, and you know, she's a common guest on here as well. She's not common. She's rare.
She's legendary.
But she did a really good Farseer one, and then a gentleman from, I believe, Portugal named Gonza did a really good one with his girlfriend of Maruna, the succubus card, and I can find those links for you too if you have show notes or something you want to put them in.
Hey, I'll put them in the show notes for sure, because I know I definitely have seen both of those cosplays. Thrillings with her pots and pans, and and the succubus one with the dude in the track pants.
A lot of work went into it, and Berja even gave us full CDPR price support. So we had pins, lanyards, T-shirts that all got shipped out. I believe we're still lagging behind on the ones that were sent to NA a little bit. I think the package got caught up in customs, but those will be going out. For this one, people will probably just hang out in voice chat and watch it together on a whim. Saturday is our typical voice chat social day, so they'll be on there anyway, and they'll probably just be like, "Hey, there's a tournament. Let's watch it," and do it.
Yeah, so the tournament, that's really cool. Yeah, the crappy cosplay, that's the kind of thing that really brings community together, I think, because it's really fun, and when you see people do it really well, you know, do it bad, but do it well in a bad way, so bad it's good. I would love to, I mean, even my wife, La Vegetaliana, she loves it as well, and I bet we'll probably do one if you do another one. How about that?
There have been requests. We'll probably do one for the next Challenger. And there's also been requests to have a tournament of our own. People really want to see us do a Trial of the Grasses style tournament with apprentices and mentors. So we have a fully fleshed volunteer-run community mentoring program. And a lot of people have been requesting for months to do it. And I was like, guys, we're brand new. Like, I don't even have my moderators sorted out yet. Calm down.
Well, having stuff on the horizon is always good, of course. You know, it's a good problem to have when you have too many things to do. Is it? Is it a good thing? We'll see. We'll see. Shadowplay, just bringing it back to the tournament here. Since you cover, you're covering tournaments on a, pretty well in depth. what do you think is actually going to rise up? What might we see in future tournament metas, given that the Wild Hunt experience is going to be a bit more raw in that there's no fixed coin. So everything that Flake said about Henselt, or, you know, a deck that's kind of tuned to be abusive, maybe doesn't have that reliability because you never know what you're going to get when you queue in. But that aside, as far as like a faction by faction, how has your climb been going? Have you felt you've been getting success with some new brews, or are you finding that Dwarves still very strong? I know Alchemy is still pretty very strong. How do you feel about, you know, what we might see in these tournament metas?
Well, you got one or two ways that you'll see players go. You're going to have some players that are going to be really focus heavy on the stronger decks in this meta, being like great swords, soldiers, consume. You may see some players that really strictly go with that kind of a game plan with just targeting certain decks. Now, of course, you know, you're going to see a lot of players that are going to lose certain matchups just because they are targeting. But then you're going to see people that are going to play really strong decks, you know, whatever the strongest they feel that they can bring. And I think you're going to see really heavy great swords, really heavy consume. Soldiers is going to be a big thing, but I'm going to be honest with you. I really expect there to be some interesting shoot decks and just some really kind of crazy variations of decks that somebody's going to roll out with. We've already seen one of the Aretuza guys on the ladder playing a Northern Realms shoot deck. I believe that's Santu. And it's to some very, very good success too. So, and I'm not, if you think about it, you're like before this latest patch, a lot of people were like Shoop's only viable in Skoya, really. Now we're seeing it show up in Monsters. We're seeing it show up now with Northern Realms. So I think we're going to definitely see some surprise decks out there. Now, will they carry over to the ladder or not? That's a different story. I think with the ladder, you're going to see people going either heavy removal route or heavy points.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think Consume's still going to be. I mean, Consume is like, there's no doubt that Consume is so powerful that, you know, that's why there's targeting strategies based around Consume. But if you don't target Consume, it's going to just kill you. It's just so good. So Consume is like probably still one of the more binary decks out there. Gwent Challenger 3, we saw the Emir hand buff brought, but we didn't actually see it because all the players that would have faced off against it actually banned it. But it was there, and I'm worried about that deck as well. I haven't seen it once since the patch, but it exists. I know it still exists. And I think tournament and for the Shoop stuff, it's really interesting. I think a monster Shoop deck in a tournament would blow my mind. But the Northern Realms thing, you've seen it?
There are some strong monster shoot decks out there. I have lost to it once or twice, and I've seen some really, really good players on stream on the pro ladder lose to it.
That surprise factor.
Yeah.
It's wild to me because I feel like Monsters is the faction that requires like archetype synergy the most, and they don't have something like elves or dwarves or like soldiers or something that they can like choose like a wide roster of and still kind of make it work. Usually you're running in a monster deck like more 3-ofs and stuff like that. I don't know. But it could be, I mean, I don't know. I like I said, it would blow my mind, and I want to see it for sure.
I think we're going to see it.
Yeah. Flake, have you tried to shoot monster deck at all? You do play a lot of monsters.
Monsters is my jam from start to finish. I mean, if you're counting the amount of wins I have versus any other faction, Monsters is up there with about 15 to 1600, and then there's Skoya with close to about 800 probably, and then everything below that is probably about 100 or less. But have I ever tried that? Never, honestly. A Shoop, the only attempt I've ever had at Shoop, and a successful one I might add, is with Skoyatel Elves, and it was, I mean, there's no surprise there. To me, it just seemed like the right avenue to take to make Shoop viable. But with Monsters, it just seems like there's too many. Like it's too archetype heavy, either Frost or Deathwish. Whereas as soon as you kind of stray away from one particular category of card or archetype, it loses a lot of its mojo. So you're kind of really falling behind. So, I mean, if someone is out there playing it and playing it successfully, please, I mean, I'd love to see it in action. But it's never something that I've really given a fair shake at.
All right, let's talk about the big event coming up on the 16th and 17th. Well, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. Gwent returns to Philadelphia for Wild Hunt #2. This is a 3-day event that will be broadcast live on Twitch. Friday will be mostly festivities, which includes a live on-location Commander's Horn. So be warned, next week I will not be broadcasting the podcast on Tuesday, nor will I be posting a cast on Wednesday on the feed, because I'll be doing the live show on that Friday, which is the 15th. And so we'll see how it will hit the feed, how I decide to break that up. But there's going to be some extras on Patreon for the Commandos for sure, because I love going to these events and just chatting with people. But for the actual event, which will be a Swiss stage for day 1 and the finals on day 2, we'll be live on the Nerd Street Gamers channel. I will be casting with Joe Snow and Swim. Flake will be hosting. Ammers is an official admin. As well as a number of North American players and streamers that will be present to meet up and also play in the tournament as well. We're all involved in some way, so let's talk about what's going on, what we're doing to prepare for the next North American LAN. We touched upon it briefly, but Flake, we got a week left, almost a week left, until we're going to be getting ready to get going, probably leaving on the Thursday there on the 14th. So what's planned? How are we going to get started? What's planned for the Friday?
Okay, so the Friday is going to be the launch party. Now, the actual location of the venue is up in the air. We are kind of calling an audible on this one because we did have some ideas that we wanted to implement in terms of actually giving the viewer a little bit of a more involved experience. So the actual venue location itself is a little bit under review, and we are looking at actually being at Nerd Street Gamers on the Friday evening for a party. The same kind of itinerary is going to be there. You show up, you have a good time, where there's going to be most likely kind of like a live broadcast area. We're still going to have the Commander's Horn live broadcast with yourself and myself. We're going to have Lodge of Sorceresses there are going to be doing some live Gwent demos with actual real paper Gwent. We're going to be there doing a trivia, Gwent Masters Worldwide versus Lodge of Sorcerers trivia, much like the trivia show that Mark Theus and I do. We're going to have that going on. You'll have all the streamers that are going to be there, going to actually be on location, having fun, having some drinks, having a good time, some good food, discussion, the whole bit. Saturday morning, it's up and at 'em, straight away, off to the races. The tournament begins. In the evening, there's a little bit of an extra spice as well that Gwent Masters and Lodge of Sorcerers are getting behind and sponsoring. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's going to be kind of a little bit of a quest type thing that's going to go on throughout the day. And on Sunday is when we go down to the finals and sort of, I don't want to say crown the winner because it's another fantastic belt.
Championship belt.
Another championship belt. This one is a different color scheme as well. We're going to go with, the other one was black, it was white with silver plating. This one is going to be black with gold plating. So just so you know kind of what tournament, what sort of season that you're in.
You're gonna belt them because
those are Saints colors. I need to win that.
Yeah, black and gold, exactly. So so we're not sure if we're gonna actually have like an 8-man elimination Gwent tournament to determine the final, or if we're gonna hang it from the ceiling and have a tables, ladders, and chairs match. Where that's all up in the air as well. But I guarantee you, it's gonna be worth tuning in for every second of this tournament from the start on Friday to the final minutes on Sunday. There's going to be something entertaining for you guys to do and to take in. Honestly, I can't upsell this enough because being there is one thing. Watching it is a whole other experience. You guys get the benefit of having the polished product. People like Mark Theus put in you have no idea how much work this guy did, and he flies so low under the radar in terms of just the amount of work he's done from a media production perspective. Like, I can't give this guy enough respect.
Mark Theus is great. Mark Theus is great.
Mark Theus is fantastic.
Great dude.
Everybody has done phenomenal work, but I mean, special shout out to Mark Theus, and I'm like over the moon excited for this entire experience.
Yeah, that sounds like a great itinerary, man. I'm looking forward to doing all that stuff, and it's going to be like a nice little meetup. We got the the mansion set up, perhaps. So we're going to be, I'll be streaming from there one way or another. I'm sure we'll be all hanging out. Ammers, how are you preparing? You're an official admin this time, so you're going to be on the floor helping No Control. What's to say it again? Admin. Yeah. What did I say?
Nothing. Never mind.
You're adminning the tournament with
we call it adminning. Or admin.
Oh,
Admin would be
admin as opposed to
America.
admin. Oh,
Yeah.
well,
America.
I've never been an admin, and I've also have no tech background, so I'm probably just saying it wrong. All right, so Ammers, official admin for the tournament, helping No Control on the floor, getting people into their seats. It's a lot of work, so I'm glad he's getting some help. And kind of, what are you expecting? What are you expecting from this? And we are talking about the weekend of the 15th, 16th, and 17th. For those of you asking in the chat that just showed up, it is not this weekend, but next weekend in Philadelphia. So how are you getting ready for the event, Ammers?
I'm the only one from the Lodge mod team who's going to be there. A lot of the mods are in Europe, so obviously they can't make it. So I'm kind of there alone in an official capacity for the Lodge. If anyone wants to like rep the Lodge with me, there are going to be a lot of people there who are also in the Lodge. Then that is fine as well. As helping out on the team, I'll just be running deck lists, getting people set up, that kind of stuff. I actually have a background in running tournaments from college. I was on the organizers team for Ohio State's Buckeye Land, which is like our big video game organization. So that's in my wheelhouse. And I will be bringing to the event. I actually have it here to show you.
Ooh, visual aids.
Beautiful. So if you're going to listen to this, I'm so sorry, but if you're watching, you can see this beautiful Gwent box I have here.
Okay, so
And
this is a wooden box with the faction icons.
A full set of Gwent decks for people to play with.
That's great. So that's a wooden box with the Gwent icons kind of like in a metal plate on
Really
top.
cool.
A little Witcher scene on the inside of the lid, and all of the factions represented inside of the Gwent box in the actual paper cards that were given out.
These are just like the ones that you would have gotten from the DLC.
You would have gotten one of these in one of these packs right here,
DLC
the physical
bonuses.
packs.
I also got printed out the Skellige cards as well, which were never available as DLC, but they are printed from the game assets. And yeah, we'll have those available to play with. Like you can make a deck from scratch because there's like 80 a piece, and I have them fully sleeved. They're good to go. So you'll be able to pick up a deck, make a 30-card deck or so from it. I'll probably ban spies.
That's no fun. You're gonna play. You gotta play the original
fun.
Gwent.
They're so ahead of your time.
I'll probably ban spies.
Just have one spy.
They can just come to a gentleman's agreement between themselves, or
just ban Avalok. Avalok is the
so I have
OP
that,
busted card
but
that you
also,
don't want anyone to have.
As a peripheral.
Oh wow! What is this?
This is a game board. It has a Lodge of Sorceresses logo on the front that was painted by a wonderful artisan from Russia. And this is nothing you'll see in the game. It's something made custom.
Oh my god! You're gonna have to back up a little bit.
I know, it's huge. It's a full Gwent game board with all the lanes and everything painted. So people can play with this as well. Be very careful with it. It was expensive, but it's worth it.
So this is a wooden Gwent game board that folds up and locks, and
it's large.
It's large. Yeah, that's a big deal right there. That's really cool. Definitely check out the video if you're only listening to this on audio.
Well, hold on there, McBeard. Now, if you're listening to the audio and you want to see these game boards, there are two preferable ways to see the game board. Number one is to attend Wild Hunt 2 and touch the game board with your very own hands and ask Ammers questions.
Make sure you wash your hands first.
Correct. And the second way is
you filthy nerds.
Is to maybe you can tune in to the actual tournament, which is occurring on the 16th and 17th of June, and maybe you'll catch a glimpse of it. And then and only after that have you heard the entire podcast 4 times consecutively. Then maybe you want to go and check out the VOD if you didn't get one of those options. I'd be a fool not to take this opportunity to shill out our own tournament. I will just take that and run with it.
Cyan in the chat.
Yeah,
sure, go ahead.
One last thing. I'll have those items the whole weekend for people to play with, but then we'll also be having some prize support for the after party activities. I actually have 5 more copies of the decks. Well, 1 copy each, respectively.
Nice.
Ready to go, all packaged up, tied with a bow for winners.
Physical copies of the cards.
We will have ways for you to win these. If you happen to be there. So definitely come out to spectate, even if you don't want to participate as a tournament entrant.
That is super cool stuff right there. Sion in the chat, how will you patch IRL board when we have 2 rows? It's called a saw. You just saw off the bottom. That's it. It's super easy. It's easy to remove a row, right? That's why they only need 6 months to do it. ShadowplayRed, what's your involvement in Wild Hunt? I know that you were doing there was a pre-tournament at one point that got you, if you won the tournament, you could win your ticket to win your admission ticket to Nerd Street Gamers for the tournament. What's it like been preparing for this tournament on your side?
Well, I could tell you that me and Ammers and Flake have been, and a couple of the moderators for Gwent Masters Worldwide have been working behind the scenes for kind of like a pub quest slash kind of day quest for Saturday. Mm-hmm. More details of that will be rolling out over the next week. So we've been working hard behind the scenes on that. A little bit of the prize support you saw Ammers flash up just a minute ago in those lovely, lovely decks. Mm-hmm. And then as far as my side, I'm playing in the tournament as well. So right. Myself and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 4 of Team Leviathan Gaming will be playing in it. So besides me, so 5 of us actually be there. And so besides, just working with the team, kind of trying to get some final decks worked up for the tournament. I think working behind the scenes on this activity that we're going to have for the day on Saturday has been definitely a big part. So cool. I'm really looking forward to the tournament. I was unfortunately not able to make the first one, so I was kind of left longingly watching the screen and Flake work his all-day magic. But it looked like it was a great event, and I wanted to make sure that not only Gwent Masters Worldwide was out there in full form, which we are, myself, most of my admins and moderators are going to be there, but also the team as well. So we're all looking forward to playing in it and hopefully winning it. Now, like I said, that black and gold belt would look really good on me as I'm in New Orleans. So.
Well, it's all on the line. You will have a chance to win it. It's a really great North American land. It's pretty big. It's going to be a Swiss before the final, so it is a bit more skill intensive in that you have to actually win. You have to win a bunch to actually enter into the next day. So it's going to be really cool stuff. We saw some great players last time. Even more players, I believe, are going to be representing North America. They're most all people are going to be representing North America. But let's say some big names there. Let's say returning people. I mean, I'm expecting bigger names, yeah, even bigger now than they were before. I'm expecting that Trinet may make a reappearance if he lives in the area. He's a very good player. He won the last one. He will be there. He did win the last Wild Hunt tournament. I'm expecting, we know DG Thunder is going to be there. Goreflow might be there. I'm just naming the people that were there last time. Don't know if they're going to be there or not.
Speaking of, you mentioned bigger names, but just if we abbreviated that word to GUR names, Dr. Gur.
Yeah, Dr.
will
Gur,
definitely be there. I will say this: I'm honestly gonna put my money on Dr. Gur making the at least the Final Four again. This guy is definitely a sleeper pick. He doesn't necessarily command the type of attention that a lot of other big streamers and names do, but this is someone that is, he's quote unquote final table, caliber every time.
Yeah, well, he actually took on Vishra, and Stellabrate's going to be there. Stellabrate wasn't able to be there last time. But he is, he's a prominent North American player, very high up on the ranked ladder. Usually every time I've checked has owned #1 positions at some points. Famed Northern Realms player, famed Scoia'tael hater. Will he choose to not bring Scoia'tael to the tournament? Scoia. I am so sure he will not. I've never seen somebody so dedicated, not just to specializing in something, which a lot of great players do, but he specializes in hating Scoia'tael. So I just
banning people for loving Scoia'tael on his stream.
Just
so
banning them.
Fantastic.
He's just ruthless.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. No, I love it. No, that's going to be really good stuff. Absolutely. And Reducey will be there as well. Possibly only female competing. I wonder. Always Turtle will not be there. She was the guest on the podcast last week. She told me that she would not actually be able to make it. So it is possible Randucci might be, because I think that you and Always Turtle were the only ones that were competing in the tournament. So we'll see. Thrilling will be there as well. It's going to be a great time. Really looking forward to it. Any last thing to add about Wild Hunt before we turn it over to the chat and we maybe just talk about what we're playing or what we're up to this week?
Oh, very easy. We've reinforced the chairs because we know Red Raim's on his way back.
Yeah, Red Raim.
That guy goes 0 to 60 degrees in like like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
no time at all. So legitimately, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, Pumpkin's going to be there, Swim's going to be there, Celebrate's going to be there. Vishra is absolutely going to be back. I didn't want to give him any airtime because I'm pretty sure that he's going to be commanding enough of his, like, tooting his own horn enough that I didn't want to toot it for him, so to speak. Yeah, man. Like, when it comes to trash talk, I don't need to pump his tires because he can do a good job of it himself. But he will absolutely be there, and he is probably a favorite for Final Four as well. I think that, you know, I don't want to call repeat, but I think that there's a good money on, you know, Trinet, Dr. Gur, and Vishra sort of making it in. And, you know, maybe Shadowplay. I know he's a damn good player. He could probably make it to the top 4. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's anyone's
Who
game.
Who is that guy? Who that guy? I know, right?
It's anyone's game. We saw Trinet, just as a short recap, in Wild Hunt 2, we saw Trinet absolutely command the coin as he had to deal with 5 blue coins, in which the series did go 3-2 for him, in which he opened past every blue coin. It was wild. It was wild. And he took it pretty well, and he ended up winning the tournament no matter what. He is known for playing very aggressive open pass decks that he believes long round is basically, if you can't do it, you can't win. He wrote a really great write-up after that tournament, I remember. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play again.
Yeah.
And
it was extremely comprehensive.
Yeah, it was really, he's
and
a good
also,
player.
he has a blue coin flare on his, or emote on his Twitch now. Got that pretty quick.
Yeah,
he also won. Kira Lisa won the pre-tournament, but was nice enough to roll it over since he wasn't going to come stateside. But yeah, Trinet looked really strong in the pre-tournament, so I would say watch out for him for sure. I know I will be.
Right on, guys. All right. Well, I'm very excited for the Wild Hunt tournament that's coming up. And even though Red Dragon is coming up before that, there won't be a podcast immediately reporting on that, since I will not be doing a podcast on this next Tuesday coming up. We're doing the live podcast once again on Friday, June 15th. So we'll obviously touch a little bit on that, but it'll be mostly about the on-location event. Any questions from the chat for Flake, Ammers, or ShadowplayRed? Any questions about the Wild Hunt tournament? Or maybe just something you want to bring up? Are you trying any crazy new brews out there? I know I am. I've been playing with Slave Driver. I think that's awesome. I think the new Elven Scout is awesome. I've got some crazy new Northern Realm stuff coming up, but we'll talk about that. Oh, Ammers, you have your hand up. Is there something you wanted to mention before?
I did just remember. I really wanted to thank the lodge members who contributed to the sponsorship that we purchased, because I only paid for about maybe an eighth of it myself. We kind of crowdfunded it, and that just shows how much the community really cares about North American Gwent. They contributed multiple hundreds of dollars to the crowdfunding for the sponsorship that we got to help out Wild Hunt. So I know some of them are in chat, and I just really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. That was really awesome.
A lot of hands come together for community events like this, and when we work together, we get to create a great event, not just for us that are involved on location, but also a cool viewing event as well for everybody, and especially for the North American crowd who gets it at a time that's a bit more of an afternoon relaxer rather than to get up early in the morning and watch it on CET. So, we love the North American tournaments, being North Americans. How do you feel about the tournament? Let us know. Questions in the chat, of course. If you have anything you want to ask us in the chat, anything you want to talk about with the new patch, let us know. We'll be right back. Once again, we are supported by our commandos. Our patrons at patreon.com/commandershorn. The first episode of Horn of Plenty went up on Patreon last week, which was an extended interview with Always Turtle. I plan on using this space for a lot of audio goodies for the Silver Tier Commandos in the future. Thanks so much again, everybody, for supporting the content, keeping the podcast ad-free. Kara Gwent is in the channel, and he is the person who won the tournament that ShadowplayRed was talking about, winning a qualifier for attorney I can't attend, FML. Thanks for joining us in the chat, Kara Gwent. You are a champ, of course. So how have you all been enjoying the patch? Me personally, I have been playing. I had a lot of success with Slave Driver. I think Slave Driver Emir is Just awesome, and I want to see somebody refine it, because I think that it has a lot of flexibility and a lot of power with Emir Decoy, the stuff that Slave Driver can do, Peter Sar Gwenlove, maybe anything that can boost or restore with Mandrake, anything you can play twice with Decoy in general. I think that card is so awesome, and I think that I probably had the most fun, especially playing Nilfgaard, me personally. I don't know, I guess I'll just go quickly around as we wait for the chat questions to come in. Flake, what's your favorite part about the new patch? And I'll ask all three of you.
Oh boy, I suppose that the one of the main aspects of it that I'm glad to see that is kind of tossed by the wayside now. I remember it was a while ago, and this was something that they were supposed to address with this patch, was the kind of like the removal of create to a certain degree and making it a lot less viable, or sort of toning it down from 100 miles an hour to something that we can at least absorb and not be completely salty about. But just the runestones themselves kind of phasing their way a little bit out of it, where the odds of getting that high roll are a lot less than they used to be. That probably for me is the most digestible about this brand new patch that hit. And it's not like it's a giant content update, but there was enough tweaks and sort of shifts in the cards and what they do that it actually is kind of cool. And the new, like you said, new Slave Driver, it's kind of interesting. We've seen this card kind of before with, Cyclops, which is a card that when it came out, I thought was phenomenal. That I don't want to say people were sleeping on, but I don't want to say I was the first person to really use Cyclops effectively, but I was probably one of the first few people to use Cyclops effectively when it came out. That with Dow, that with the Larrys. But I mean, now that there's the cool part about it, I find, is that it leaves a body on the board that you can Mandrake up or Spores up or do whatever. So I think that's kind of. But to me, the best part of it, definitely getting create, giving create a little bit of a timeout a bit.
Yeah, create getting hosed was fantastic, but yeah, I think that the way Slave Driver was designed is that there's so many cards that work really well with Slave Driver, such as Emir, such as now that it's actually a flexible ping of damage that doesn't rely on some other archetype, like the spies, the cards that ping for spies, like what is it, the Arbalest and the Nausicaa Brigade, or the Enforcers, anything like the reveal pings. It's actually something that can do real reliable damage to stuff, which is why Slave Hunters actually work better in that deck, because you can actually just ping and steal. One of my favorite things. Ammers, what's your favorite part about the latest patch?
The nerf to Winch.
Great,
is probably
yeah.
my favorite.
Mm-hmm,
I don't mind not having to play against Henselts pulling like 5 machines out of their deck, so that's nice. The nerf to Runestones made it so I can play more Axemen, and Axemen's my favorite deck whenever I need to finish pushing for GM. They're the only deck that I've hit GM multiple times with. They always get me there every time. So I guess they're good again now that there's less high roll weather clears.
Yeah, Axemen's pretty damn good.
I thought the change to Olgierd was really weird.
It is weird.
That didn't seem like a huge problem. It
It's
felt like
something
they were
more for
fixing
Deathwish,
something
I
that
guess.
wasn't broken.
Yeah, it's like that's like the new card we
Deathwish
got.
is fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's strange.
What about you, Shadowplay?
But I'm
What's
very, very happy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There may be just a quick delay. I feel like I'm talking in front of you a lot. Continue your thoughts. Sorry, Ammers.
Oh, no, it's fine. I would have liked to see a different change to Slave Driver. I think what they did was not very flavorful for the card. It was odd choice. I would have liked to see them do something like have Slave Driver deal 1 damage to something and repeat its battle cry. Or sorry, that's a Hearthstone word. It's
there isn't a keyword for it anymore.
Deploy.
It used to be
Deploy,
deploy. Yeah.
deploy.
I mean, I think it's cool. Like the Slave Driver is forcing the card to fight, kind of like
Yes.
So like the thing that the Slave Driver is like whipping into shape is going down to 1, but then it fought with almost all of its strength to do the damage. I think I can rationalize Slave Driver's effect. Actually, it's okay with me. Maybe Shadowplay. What about you? What's your favorite part about the swap patch?
Ooh, I'm not. The first thing was the nerf to Skoya for sure. I was very, very happy about seeing some things happen there. Things that I that have bothered me a bit. I would say Olgerd more than anything. Really, I don't as an old school KB discard player. I guess it just seems like they are continually coming after that deck or particular setup. I guess it's been several patches now. It seems like that they've progressively went after nerfs towards that engine, but that's just me. I would say that out of the patch, something that I've really started playing myself that I've liked a whole bunch is Nilfgaard Soldiers. I think since this last patch especially, you've seen it grow a good bit. And I would like to say too, a lot of people are really big on Consume and as far as the monster deck, but right now it's not working too well, but there has been about a week or maybe 5 or 6 days that there was a real shift into Dagon Deathwish. And it's always been a favorite deck of mine ever since Joe Snow got me onto it. So I would definitely like to see maybe the meta go back towards it a little bit, but we shall see what comes from it. I think that the next 2 weekends with the tournaments that we're going to see some definitely different things come out of that, and then probably they will transition to the latter, I would say. So
all right, we're gonna read one question from the chat here because I'm gonna get you all just to give a hot take on this one. And no, I am not asking Mark Theus's question. How did Flake get so handsome? I'm not asking that question. I'm asking Akame 1999, serious question about a Gwent card. What is your opinion on Lambert Swordmaster? And if you need a refresher, Lambert Sword. Oh, I should have had this open. Lambert Swordmaster, I believe, is a 7 strength. Okay, this is good.
He deals 4 damage to all copies of a card.
Right. It was his body strength that I was. What is the body strength? Yeah. 6 or 7?
I think it's 7.
It's 7. Okay. It was 7. Oh, yeah. So exactly. It's a 7 strength unit, deals 4 damage to all like-named cards. So in a situation where you are playing against, I'm trying to think of an example, I guess like the Dwarven list.
Reaver Hunters?
Yeah, Reaver Hunters. Yeah, exactly. Soldiers, yeah. Well, especially Soldiers with the Slave Infantry. That would obliterate that deck, I think.
Yep.
In fact, if you surprise your opponent on round 3 with Lambert Swordmaster, they will not win the game. I do believe that. But I mean, like, there's the Mahakam triplets, maybe. I mean, dwarves are running that sometimes, but I don't know. I personally think that I like that the card's in the game, and I like that it doesn't have a cap, but I also think that it's always going to be targeting or fun. Lambert Swordmaster. What do you think, Flake?
So, I mean, it's tough because the first way that you see this card. I'm what? Sorry?
He's 8 strength. My bad. He's 8 strength.
8 strength. Oh, sorry. Okay, so 8 strength, right? Doing 4 damage to all copies of a single card. The first application of this card that you initially think of is that it's a tech card, right? But it's a gold piece as well. So you typically rarely make tech choices in that slot. Usually your tech cards are more bronze or silver related. It's hard to fit in when you have a limited amount of gold cards to put a tech piece like that. But if you're kind of thinking of it from a perspective of even point value, 8 strength, deal 4 damage, there's almost always going to be a 12-point play with it, and in many occasions quite possibly a 16-point play. So at a 16-point strength play for a gold, that's not terrible. That's actually pretty good. So I think that it's a card that a lot of people might be sleeping on, especially in a meta that might see a lot of soldiers or a lot of cards that play in a later round duplicates of one type of card. Because think about it, if you're playing against, I don't know, let's say you're playing against a Deathwish deck and you have 2 or 4 lesser Dowels on the board that come out from the Griffins, that Lambert itself is going to be a complete bomb. So I think that this is a card that certainly has better applications than people might give it credit for.
I mean, if you hit 3 things, that's a 22-point gold, and that's premium when you look at Syria Nova and kind of what you have to do already to achieve that. And, I mean, Half-Elf Hunter is another good example, I think, just because you may see 4 of those on the board, realistically, if you're playing against a deck that's running Elf Swarm. The Dow spawns of the lesser Dow is a really good example as well. And Revenants, I think, if you're climbing, you're going to see some Cursed Northern Realms. You're just going to see it if you're climbing. Somebody's out there trying it at many of the lower ranks. Many people are trying it, so you're going to crush that matchup as well, I think. So, I mean, it's not the craziest card. If you're getting 16 maybe with Roach, nah. If you're expecting like three ships on the board is a thing that you might often see. So
that actually happened to me last night. Someone played that against me last night while I was playing Greatswords. Hit 3 ships, and I was like, oh,
Lambert 3 ships?
Exists.
That's hilarious. That just happened. I never see that card ever.
That's the first time I've seen anyone play that card on the ranked ladder. I was very surprised.
Yeah. And Shadowplay, what do you think about Lambert Swordmaster? Or if there's anything to add?
I'm not. There really isn't much to add from what y'all have said. I'm not there. There's definitely a use for it. I think what we see this weekend from Red Dragon may depend. Decide whether we see it in some decks for Wild Hunt 2. But I think it's kind of like a feast or famine card. If you don't get the right deck that you're facing, then it's kind of like I would say kind of a maybe not the best card. It's a waste of a gold space in my opinion. But if the meta does shift to more swarm type decks, like even we've seen the Arrakis swarm a bit on the ladder, which was something that Freddie and brought to the last challenger that he worked on a good bit with my co-founder that I think's here in the chat, Beardy Bog, for TLG. But yeah, it's if you see more of these swarm style decks hitting the ranked and pro ladder, it would definitely be a great tech. But then again, like I said, it can end up being a waste of a gold spot.
I just want to sort of interject here real quick. I don't see the difference between this card and, let's say, potentially kind of like an Igni, whereas an Igni, you can either throw it down in certain cases as 5 and more people play around Igni, whereas a card like this at the worst case is 8 strength hitting nothing or 12 strength hitting 1 unit. I mean, you're getting even better value than an Igni. I think that this is definitely a card that even just the surprise factor should probably be making its way more into more decks in, let's say, even in place of an Igni or something. I know that Igni has the bigger potential in more cases, but I mean, if your opponent is playing a swarm deck or 3 or 4 copies of a card, a lot of the times that Lambert is going to have just as much of a punch as that Igni would be. That might be a really hot take, but if you think about it, I'm not wrong.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong in the way that when Igni whiffs, it whiffs. Well, when Lambert whiffs, you're getting 12 points. So that's true. Igni would have to hit a 17-point burn to hit what Lambert's potential is, with just 3 copies of a card on the board, I guess, if you're looking at it like that. And like a card like Aglace, which is also an 8-strength body, sometimes doesn't get a lot of value when she whiffs. And you look at Lambert, where it's less likely that you're not going to get 6. I think 16 points is like really, it's like very, very likely that you're going to get 16 from Lambert, and sometimes 22. It's, I think I might just, I don't think I'm going to build a deck around it, but I think I might just, if next time I play a deck that has a flex spot, a flex gold there, I think I might just give it a try, because there's not a ton of matchups that he's really good in, but there's enough out there that maybe the average value they get from Lambert might be higher than something else that might be, teched out for the meta, like Igni or something like that. It's actually ended up being a great question. Thanks.
Are you willing to admit that is because I've just convinced you straight away?
I think that us talking about it made me realize that card's value is probably starting at 16 and goes up from there, and that's not terrible when you look at Igni.
I haven't been getting that much value out of my corals lately. I play a lot of Skellige, so especially specifically because of slave infantry swarms, so maybe I'll swap it out.
You're welcome. I'm just gonna say
Flake is changing the meta just with his big ideas.
My big fat mouth.
Guys, we're gonna wrap this up. This is a great podcast. Thanks to all 3 of you for coming on. But where can people find all of you when you're doing your thing in your own respective? I mean, we talked obviously a lot about what you guys do. So just as a quick recap, social media, shout outs, Flake, where are you at?
You can find me broadcasting pretty much on the daily. I don't think there's really that many days that I'm not opening my big mouth and showing my ugly face. But on the standard schedule will be between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern time at www.twitch.tv/watchflake. I also do a bi-weekly Gwent trivia, kind of in partnership with Lodge of Sorcerers. They're presenting that. I host a Gwent trivia show with my good friend Mark Theus, who does spectacular, phenomenal work producing the show. And I just want to kind of maybe drop some fat leaks as to who's going to be on the next show. There is two confirmed guests and one guest that has confirmed last week, but I'm just kind of double checking and making sure. But I promise you that if all three guests sort of show up, this might be the biggest thing it might be the best lineup that we'll ever have. One of those guests will be Joe Snow. Another one will be Ash Cosplay. And the third one is the biggest one of all, and I'm not going to reveal that yet. And no, it's not Swim. That's all I'm going to say.
Very interesting. Ammers, where can people find you out there on social media and when you're doing your thing?
So you can, my Twitch is Ammers. I don't really stream that much, but when I do, you can find me there. You can much more frequently and obviously find me on the Lodge of Sorceresses Discord. I'm on there every day. There is an invite link in Twitch chat if you would like to explore the community. We're super friendly and fun. Our voice chat social is going to be next Saturday, and that will lead directly into that trivia show we were talking about. So everybody likes to hang out and chat and watch that together. Should be a lot of fun. There are winner prizes for that, or audience prizes for that, by the way, and they come out of a list of like more than 90 Steam game codes that I've collected over like the last 2 years. So like I have a lot for people to pick from. So definitely come out for that. And you can find me on the Lodge. Right
on. ShadowplayRed, where can people find you when you're doing your thing?
Well, first thing, y'all could jump on Facebook, look up Gwent Masters Worldwide. We are one of the largest communities dedicated to Gwent out there. So if you're on Facebook, definitely pop by there. Myself on Twitch, I'm actually not ShadowplayRed. Some bugger stole my name, so it's ShadowplayUTD. Like United, but UTD. And then also I'm popping the Team Leviathan Gaming Discord invite and our Twitter location here in the chat for anybody that's down. And yeah, feel free to pop by. Just a quick shout out to my guys over at Team Leviathan Gaming. Thanks, guys. Y'all all rock. And thanks for having me on, man.
Hey.
Can confirm they rock.
My pleasure, and thanks to all of you for showing up. I can be found... one thing I want to say, first of all, while I did say that I was going to be not doing a podcast on Tuesday or posting a podcast on the feed on Wednesday, I am, however, going to be on the first episode of Team Aretuza's GwenTalk, which is actually on the 11th of June at 4 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 p.m. CEST. So I will be on that show with Apro and LB Dutch Boy and Nergard. We're going to be probably talking about the results from Red Dragon Gwent. So if you want to hear my takes on that, check out that show. It'll be live on the Team Aretuza Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Team Aretuza. So I'm excited to do that with them, be part of their first episode. On top of that, I can be found on Twitter at McBeardCH, McBearded on Twitch, and McBeard on YouTube. And I think we can wrap this bad boy up. Episode 83 in the books, my friends. Thanks, everybody in the chat, for joining as well. And that's going to do it for us. Find us on Twitter at Commander's Horn and email us at commandershornpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, my friends, thanks, everybody, for joining us here on Commander's Horn. Best of luck on the path.